Monica. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing well. It's always good to reconnect. It's been a while we haven't spoken. I think it's been over 3, 4 years or so.
I think it might be. Maybe not, maybe 3 years. It has been a while.
Yes,
It's
yes.
great to see your face.
Yes, it is, it is. So what's been new with you? What's been keeping you busy, and what are your thoughts on the current situation that we're experiencing, or the current market at the moment?
Well, the current market at the moment is extremely difficult. I think it's been a horrible past 4 years, if you look at it, with 10 interest rate
Hmm.
hikes. This has really, really been tough on people, the everyday person, and investors,
Yeah.
with the cost of mortgages, with the cost of living, job uncertainty. I think that our pre-existing tumultuous conditions have just ramped up
Hmm.
substantially. And it's been a really, really tough economy.
It has been.
Um,
It has been, and it's tough. It's for some. There's some I've heard, losing a lot of money, or some going bankrupt. Some people that are well known going bankrupt as well. Did too many flips. All of a sudden, they got caught with 3, 4 near the end, and now selling the property that's 100,000 there. Which 100,000 on one property is not bad, but if you're doing 3, 4, 5 of those, that's a 500,000 right there. That can be substantial. As we look at a few properties recently that it's unfinished rent, unfinished flips. They started it and then they just completely ran out of money. It's
mhm.
so we're seeing some devastating things in the market at the moment.
Well, I think now is the time where when the tide goes out, you really see who's swimming naked.
I love that.
And it really is true, though. So we were in the same situation with a house flip here
Yep.
in Markham. And fortunately, because we've done this for over 14 years, we have a lot of exit strategies and plans. And
Hmm.
ideally, our normal plan was to flip this property and probably get 120,000 profit in 12 weeks. That was the
Yep.
initial thing. So, and we did this with investors as well. And this would have been about a year and a half ago, I
Hmm.
believe. Was it a year and a half ago? I'm not really good at keeping track of time. Um, but it was that time. And I remember walking the property with the investors and very, very clearly saying, as you know, this is not a flip market. So flipping this property is our plan A. We are going in this with a buy, rent, hold. So do not participate in this project if you're not willing to hold this investment. And our plan B, because
Long
this
term. So
has
what's long term? Was that 2, 5 years or so?
in investments, when
Yes.
you're an investor, you need to be able to time the market and not, especially when you're doing partnerships with other people, people need to realize when you're an investor and you're investing your money, there's no guarantee
Hmm.
and there's no certainty in anything. So, what is long term? And ideally, a buy rent hold is till the chief investor says, now is the right time to let this sell.
Hmm.
When you start pulling the trigger early, panicking, doing these sort of things, this is really when the tide goes out. Like people
Yeah.
are doing that. You have to have these extra plans. So, I didn't even actually give them a time limit, which is interesting that you asked me that. I've never been asked that before.
Hmm.
All I said was, we have a separate entrance and a kitchen bathroom in the basement. If we have to hold this property and it doesn't sell, we're going to put up a wall right here in the kitchen. And now we have 2 units and we're going to furnish them and do them on
Just
midterm
one wall. I
rentals.
love that. Just
Mhm.
one wall.
It was
Perfect.
just
That's
one
yeah.
wall
Yeah.
because it can be that easy. And I was
Yeah.
saying, like for the past few years, I won't buy anything that does not already have a separate entrance and a bathroom in the basement,
That's so
because you really
important.
need that plan. So our original plan for the house was it was beautiful. This house was such a dump. Oh, we transformed it beautifully. It was just a semi-detached. It was in Markham. We got it for a really, really great
Yeah.
price. And we repaired it for a very, very low price. And we created a unit that actually had an in-law suite in the basement.
Sweet.
So we have a lot of people here in Markham who like to live with their in-laws. A lot of people need, because the price of our homes, they need to have two people on the mortgage. It's just very common here. So we had it all open, like in the kitchen. So the in-laws would have their own little kitchenette. They'd have their own bedroom, their own bathroom. But if they wanted to come upstairs and do whatever, you know, they can do that, or grandkids
chill out with the grandkids, chill out with or without the grandkids, of course.
So thank God that we had this, and our investors have been so understanding with that, because we weren't able to sell it for the price that we wanted. And I was easily able to slip into that plan B, literally put up the wall, and then we furnished both units. And now we have them on midterm rentals, so you can charge substantially higher rent. And in the meantime, there's this whole subdivision behind us being built of luxury townhomes starting at 1.6 million.
Sweet.
So as that's going up, then our value is going to be going up as well.
I love that. I love that idea. The law of economic rent, where you're just sitting still, and everybody else is progressing, and you're absorbing that progress as well. That's amazing. What other so I like what you're saying about investors, where you have to kind of prep them and show them what to expect from the start. I think that'd be very beneficial. And it seems as if a lot of investors, they want the short-term gains. They want like the gains right away. You're suggesting playing the long-term game. Now, what about those people? And I've spoken to a few people where they're like, yeah, I'm into the long-term game. However, it doesn't cash flow. What do I do then? Like, what do you tell people in that situation?
Well, I do like them to get the best of both worlds. So one thing that we do is we only focus on areas with very strong economic fundamentals. Like, we are out of our tertiary markets. We are primarily just in really high growth markets. And we normally focus on the BRRRR strategy, because as developers, what we're focusing on is building like from single family into multifamily homes, because most people cannot afford to buy a single family home anymore. So most of our conversion, we either do it for flip or for conversion projects or for brand new development. So we'll build that structure that basically, or take a single family home and create those extra income components on it. So when the investor participates in those projects, one, they're able to get a huge cash injection out at the start, because we will refinance the property.
You've added such value to it. You've added another unit, complete unit. It's amazing.
So much value, like between $75,000 to $250,000 they're able to pull out. And then they can still hold the asset and rent it out for cash flow every month. Now, I wouldn't get as excited about the cash flow as I would about that cash injection, because and the long-term gain. That's why we're so strict on areas, because we only want areas that are going up, and we want that property, a very tight, simple portfolio for an investor to maybe have like 3 units, you know, in one asset that is performing for them. They've pulled their money out, which is amazing for them because they've gotten a huge ROI because of the forced appreciation. And now they're able to hold it for the long term. So there's your retirement right there. And in the meantime, get an extra like $500 a month or whatever it is in cash flow. It's hard to be cash flow positive in this interest rate environment.
Exactly. Yeah. So I got similar to you, Monika. I don't necessarily tell people bang on the cash flow, or if someone calls me and they go, I want to retire in 5 years with $1,000 per cash flow and buy 3 properties. And I go, no, the cash flow is there as a reserve if we need it. And then at the end of the year, the extra, then we split for Christmas, and then everyone's happy about that. But it's a buffer to get things going. And it's not the BN at all. I mean, it's important. So you mentioned the 3 units. I find that very fascinating because a lot of people don't realize that you can put 3 units. And now we're talking about even 4 units per lot. So
or even 5.
But you're putting 5?
We could do all sorts of different things. Our developers and builders are doing all different types of models depending on the footprint of the home. It could be as easy as 2, simple as 2. You at least need 2. I do feel you at least need 2. But
bare minimum 2. But with Bill 23, now we're at the 3. Although not a lot of them have been built in Kingston. I think the number is after the 4 years. I mean, there's a lot of units being built with large developers, but the smaller developers, investors like myself, we've built 426 in a matter of 4 years. Small population of 130,000. That's pretty good. Guess how many we built? 3 units, which I found interesting from starting January 2023.
How many?
We've only built 11.
Okay.
So that seems low, but moving forward, they're talking about 4 units per lot, which will definitely go through because this is what the federal government is also pushing. This is what we need.
Well, it's also what works.
Yeah.
Like, who is going to live there? I am very, very picky about tenant quality. I'm not going to pack people in, and I don't want long-term people living in our units. I think there's no greater appreciating asset, and as a realtor, you'd know this, than a single family home.
Yes, yes.
And in our buildings and our designs, I want to maintain the integrity of the single family home component. So a family can have access to X amount of bedrooms, bathrooms, have that space, that privacy they need, and then have those existing income helpers, which the other units would be to help them. So whether it be the one in the basement and then perhaps a garage, or you could have basement in the side, or you could have a coach house. It depends on the.
So are you
lot
renting? Are you renting to generational, like the parents live upstairs, downstairs with the kids?
No.
Okay.
We like primarily for our people, it's more like we want to rent to the Henrys, the high earners, not rich yet people.
I love that.
We want the professional people who are just kind of coming in.
I've not heard that term before, the Henrys.
I love the Henrys. I love the Henrys. We don't want the everyday like working class tenant or anything, happening in there. We're looking for more. We're looking to fill that gap. But for people who don't want to commit to a 12-month lease, they might be renovating their kitchen, or maybe they just sold their home and they're waiting for another home to be built or closed. Like, we're just looking to fill that gap because we're very nervous about the tenant quality in the Ontario market. In our Calgary markets, we're more open to be doing different types of things because we have the same development opportunities that we're doing in Calgary. And in the US, we're also doing this in Florida, as well as in Houston, like Texas.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me more about the Alberta, because I've heard the vacancy rates like in what, Calgary or Edmonton, I forget which one it was like 6-7%, which is unheard of in Ontario. How do you deal with that?
I never have experienced that. People are clamoring over each other to get places and to get properties. But my solution to always having high rentable properties is to have great looking properties that I would live in. So that's the standard that I hold. If I wouldn't stay in my property and I wouldn't live there, I'm not buying.
So you don't do student rentals?
Yeah. Well, I would totally do student rentals if I was a student and I wanted to live there. And my student rental demographic was totally different. For student rentals, I would focus on proximity and bus route, and I would do very minimal repairs, because I remember when I lived in my student rental at Guelph, it was like a hovel and I wanted it that way. And we paid big bucks for that. And we were partying and having fun and doing whatever there. So we didn't want a fancy house. And I think you still get the price for student rentals is really because there's such a need for student housing. To over repair on a student rental can be silly. Like, why not just give them a clean space? And
that's all they really want is something, as you mentioned, the location, distance, like 20-minute walk is ideal. And then something that's clean and spacious, and a closet, at least a closet and a window, which obviously is needed.
You want it civilized. Like, you don't want to have 100 people living there. Like,
exactly.
If I would live there as teen me or young adult me, or put my kids in there, then that would be my standard. Like, with student rentals, a very different standard. The people that we want to attract, like for renters and stuff. I mean, for example, we have a model going, in Houston right now, specifically for medical staff, because there's such a need for housing. So that will attract short-term, like medical staff and doctors and people at this hospital.
AAA tenants.
Exactly. So that would be an example. Like, what would a doctor want to live in, and what would they want? Well, they want to be in an attractive area, safe area, good transport, close to the hospital, but also a unit that is clean, proficient, well furnished, just done for them. And we really kind of take that less is more. So that's how we get those tenants.
I like how you do that. I like how you do that because you're thinking of the tenant first, and then you're reversing and providing what they want. And a few people actually speak that way. Some people they're talking about all the rent they're getting. They don't even have an idea of the tenant profile. And that's so important because really they're the ones buying into the projects. So that's amazing. I like that you mentioned that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. And same with like also real estate model first. Like, what are you creating rather than property first? Like, there's a lot of these properties, they have to fit into the real estate model that we create before the property even exists. Because if you don't know what you're going to look for, then how do you know when you found it? So I'm just like huge on location.
Yes.
That's one thing.
Yes, I think the first lesson I learned about real estate was location.
I know it's such an old wealth tip.
It is just so
but it's
important.
all that matters.
It does. I'm getting rid of stuff that is further out of the city, and I live downtown Kingston. I think I like the downtown core just more and more. There's so much more value here than the township. There's just less quality tenants, and few people want to live there. If they want to live there, they maybe have family there, but I like the downtown core. There's a lot more building, and a lot of the builders are building there. So we're changing.
And you could even start redeveloping your own existing portfolio there.
Yes,
if that a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah, some of the lots are big enough to put the third and fourth unit in. So we're sitting pretty on certain. We're thinking like developers now. Land developers.
We are developers.
Yeah, that's right. Developers. I'm saying land developers, which is different because I used to buy properties, 5-6 years ago where I'd be focused on the house. Now we're focused on what's the size of the backyard, what size of the lot, which is so important.
Well, I did build 18 homes in Florida.
Tell me about that. That's awesome. That's amazing. Congratulations.
So I am a developer. No, cool. So we actually did do like a ground up development, and we were the first builder in the area. So we had a really great Florida team. It's in a high growth area in Florida. So once again, we look at the economic fundamentals, we look at the migration patterns, population growth, and it's as a distribution hub of Florida. So it's expecting 300,000 population growth in this area, 30,000 jobs.
It's insane. That's like blows my mind. In Canada, what's the city location? Where?
It's the Ocala-Marion County area. Okay. So our contact and our team there, once again, we're working together. We're looking for, ideas. And he is an entrepreneur, an investor, a business owner.
Yep.
And his wife's a real estate agent. We work really closely with them. And one of his partners is an award-winning builder. So we went into a partnership and we found this area actually to do infill lots. And we built 18 homes, which was really exciting. They're beautiful homes.
Individual homes.
18 individual homes, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, double car garage, block construction, absolutely beautiful. And we were the first builder to start building in this area. There's now 7 other builders
That's amazing.
that are building
congratulations
in this area.
That sounds like a great success.
That was really exciting.
So just to get an idea here, a lot of people are just packing up. They're saying Ontario, there's no money to be made anymore in Ontario. We're leaving to Florida. It feels as if you're saying, yeah, there's money to be made in Florida or in the States, but also Ontario, Alberta, like you're more strategic. Yeah. Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
So how do you know which to choose to go, okay, I'm going to put more money in Florida or in Ontario? How does that work?
Well, the way you want to look at it is the opportunity that lies and really kind of how does this fit with your wealth goal? So right now, the market in the US, I mean, everyone is they act like a US investing is the newest thing. And people are so sporadic in their thinking. It's kind of like in COVID-19 when everyone just sold everything and went and lived in the woods. Like, hello, you're going to have to come back. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I know things are horrible in Canada right now. And with the way things are going, but there are ways, like it doesn't mean Canada is a horrible place to invest. It's just new factors that you have to take into consideration. And the US has always been a great place to invest as well. So it's not like the new US is anything new. We've been in the US market for over 10 years. Okay. and it's just still there. It's always been there. And it's, what will this investment do for your portfolio, both for active investments or passive investments?
So let's get down to the nitty-gritty of it. So an investor comes in and they're looking for just to shorten their retirement or to retire earlier. They're not too fond of the cash flow. I mean, cash flow is important, but they're looking to retire slightly earlier than ever. Do you throw them on to Florida or Ontario? How does that work? Like, what kind of investors do you work with?
We do our intakes and we assess the people, what their goals are, what they're looking for, and what it is you want to do, sort of thing. So what are we investing for in the first place? Too many people invest in real estate. They don't know what they're doing it for in the first place. So for retirement, I mean, I always use the example of, if you're 40 years old and you buy a $350,000 home and all you do is pay off that mortgage at 5%, by the time you retire at 65, that's $1.25 million. Like, have two of those and it's $2.5 million. That's how easy real estate investing can be. And that's why I love the model. When someone comes to me, they're like, I want to do some income creation, but I also want to, the three main problems that we help people solve. One is retirement. Two is to help your kids out with their post-secondary schooling and a down payment to become homeowners.
Very important.
And then three, how to make more money every month. So we say, okay, the best thing to do, I personally think, for a buy, rent, hold is to do this BRRRR strategy. And I think the closer you are into your own backyard, the better, because I want you to hold this yourself and do this yourself. And it's going to be different doing it in the US than it is. You can do it in the US. It's a great value add in your portfolio. If that's where you want to be, you could still get pretty much the same result. But we're also dealing with less numbers in the US as well. So everyone
less numbers. What do you mean less numbers?
Cheaper prices and property.
Yes, of course.
So where we buy here, our purchase price is a lot more in Ontario. Calgary is a little bit less. Their market's on fire now. That's another great place to have that growth. But also remember, Calgary has the history of the boom bust market.
Very common.
And they're in a high market right now. So you got to really see the bigger picture of Calgary as well. The fact that be prepared in Calgary to buy your property now. It's an amazing idea. But don't be surprised if it goes down a few $100,000 for maybe like 5 years. You as an investor are going to have to be okay with that.
So and allow that to recoup. The swings are wider in Alberta.
Yeah.
I thought it was, I mean, we went to a huge swing just recently. So that's
we always go through swings here. Like, why is it such a big deal? We don't call it boom bust.
Yeah, it's cyclical. I mean, that's what you got to keep in mind. Things are cyclical, especially real estate. You've got the spring, summer, fall, and now we're in a bit of winter. But once again, this will pass as well. Tell me more about the Florida. So investors who want to invest in Florida, do they have to put all the money down? Like, it's cheaper, but do they get leverage? Is there a lot of financing for those types of deals?
So it's difficult to invest in the States. And this is what a lot of people ignore as well. So when we had our investors go in with us, because we actually had investors in on this project, they were doing it ideally. The first was going in for a land development project. And the first thing we did with all the investors is they all went on title, because I don't do anything. I don't raise capital in that regards. I don't do prom notes. I want our investors to feel very secure that they're able to recoup their investment. And we once again went in with those strategies. Yes, our goal is to do a pre-construction new development here, because we wanted to sell them before they're even made. Or remember, anything can happen. Be prepared to hold these properties. Are you prepared to hold these properties and rent them out to recoup any gains? Because we loved our product and we loved our area. And this is why you always have to have a great product, great area.
Excuse me to interrupt again. I like the idea that you say, let's play it safe first, because everyone's talking about the returns, the high returns. But our philosophy is, if the safety is not there, you're not going to get the high returns.
No.
So the safety, I like the way you present it. Very safe.
And would you want to have this property in your portfolio 20 years from now? Think of it that way,
Good question. Yeah, good question.
Like, I am very proud to have the 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, double car garage, like in a block construction home, in an up and coming area, because it's still very low on the real estate cycle in that area. we started building, 6 other builders started building. You have to remember, the US has never experienced these interest rates that we have. They're now at 8.5%. Like our Texas specialist is forever like, oh my God, we're at like 8.5. Why are you guys Canadians even complaining? And when you invest in the US, be prepared as a foreign investor. It's hard to get money. They treat us like we're from like a different country.
I agree. I've got my sister's married an American. She's been in the States for 30 years. I go down to visit. It's like Canada. They've heard of it. That's it. They don't know anything else. They've heard of it. And we could be in Europe or in Africa. We're still treated like a foreign nation, completely.
Yeah. And they asked us that. They can't understand things like, well, what's your US credit score? I'm like, we don't have one. Like, they're like, how? And I'm like, because we're not American. Like, so we went through that. We also are accountants.
But Equifax is North American, isn't it?
Yeah.
But do they have 2 departments? No, they completely separate this?
There's ways to work through it. We managed to work through it. We have some great lenders now, which is good, but it was an obstacle. We went private lending the first round and then now refinance with the more traditional. So there are options for Canadians, but be prepared to pay a higher interest rate for sure.
So private lenders from America, like the States or
Canada. And they actually have some great, Canadians here who's providing lending for the US as well, which is really exciting.
Nice.
So we're able to assist that because I do think that diversifying your portfolio is great. And it's great to have US in your portfolio as well. It depends, like I said, what is it that you want to achieve? Now,
I like the American dollar as well.
Yes, and people get freaked out because it costs, but then you get paid in US dollars too. And to have some money in the US is not a bad thing, but it is more of a lack of control thing. It's also very difficult to move the money back and forth. So you have to be properly structured. Otherwise, if you are not properly structured, and our accountant, who's a cross-border accountant, did a really great job setting up all of our corporations and our corporate structures. So now people are able to invest in the US and they're able to do it safely with, using corporations, and they're able to do it a little more tax proficiently. Because a lot of people will say, well, like Florida is a tax-free state. There are no taxes. Well, according to Canada, you're going to be taxed 50% of all those profits. But if you do it as a corporation, you will have to pay tax because corporations will have to pay tax, but now you're at like a 22%. So there's always, and then you combine it with another federal tax, which is like a 26. So this is where the accounting team comes in. You have to be prepared to set up our structures. Our accountants set up a very specific structure that allows us to hold it from Canada, have the main held in a Wyoming corp, actually, and then whatever state you're operating in, then you have to have a corp in that state. So now you have the 2 tiers set up and you can alter it as you add in different states. So if we do something in Arizona, because we do a lot of flips and developments around there, we have a great team. So then that's more active income that will be there.
Intense, knowledgeable team that could do so many twists and turns. A company, you registered the company in Wyoming, you're saying?
Yeah, well, our accountant did because he's part of our team.
That's amazing.
And so he does the research, he figures it out, like what's best to serve the people. And then he comes back to the investors and like, okay, so now be prepared to pay like a 26% tax. So they knew to calculate that in advance off their return on investment.
So what are most common mistakes that you see with new investors?
Most common mistakes? Well, one, lack of focus. They have no real estate model. They have no system. They don't know how to buy properties properly. And they're so focused on low purchase prices that they go to these bad areas chase those cap rates. Like you mentioned right now, I'm going to sell the markets that are just outside of Kingston and bring them in Kingston. Your mindset as an investor was probably a lot different. When you were investing in those markets, there was a reason why you did it at that time. What may not serve you then doesn't have to serve you now.
The name of the game has changed since Bill 23, and now with 4 units and all, it's changing a lot.
Yeah, and the markets are going to go, like you said, up and down, hundreds of thousands of dollars. What will never change is if you're in a high growth area and it really there's no new places to discover. We're not Christopher Columbus here. You know what I mean? Like
We're
there's nothing wrong with investing
not going
in
to find an
obvious
island in
areas.
the middle of the ocean going, hey, look at that. This
Exactly.
free
Like there is
land.
no next best place. It's always been there. It's probably always been a good
Mars
place.
is maybe what in the distance, maybe in 200 years, we may not be around by then.
Exactly. Like the further you go, the cheaper you go does not make it better. Like when I gave that example of that buying the property for 350 and then having it just increase at 5%, I did that example on social media, and someone actually contacted, not in Washington State. And I'm like, very true. And you're right. This is why area is everything, because there are properties that you could buy for $40,000. People are acting like Cleveland is such a great thing, or
I've
Detroit.
Yep.
Come on. Like this conversation is boring. Like I just wake me up when it's over. This has been going on for years. It was a bad idea 10 years ago. It's a bad idea now.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, it's cheap, it's going to work, it's going to whatever. But at the end of the day, that Washington State example, it's a flat market.
Yeah.
They don't always go up. But you're in Kingston, for example, and you're right near that hospital. You're right near the student rental.
It's a gem. I mean, I mentioned it a couple of times, but I like it. It's a beautiful gem because we got government and we got we're locked in by land in a way, because we've got the lake at the bottom.
You are, and you're land banking at this point with your land development.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You don't even need a backyard anymore. You could just continue to build. So any green space that you have, like one of our specialists at Penguin Living, he did a presentation here in Toronto, and he's just buying up these homes in Toronto. He's doing 76 single to fourplex conversions all throughout Toronto for his own portfolio.
That's cool.
And he's like, I'm land banking on a lot of them. If clients can't afford to build on other parts of the backyard, that's a future building spot.
And those who buy based on price completely don't understand value. They don't quite understand the idea that you're buying for value or potential added value to it. Never buy on price alone. That's not,
like, how does it make sense to buy a property for $50,000? Okay, so I'm going to buy this property for $50,000, and then I'm going to rehab it for like $120,000. Okay, if it didn't sell for 50, why is it going to sell for 120? First of all, I guess it's a lot prettier and nicer, but who's going to buy it? Too, and especially in their interest rate environment. And then if you're in an area,
what area as well? I mean, is this the Bronx? Like, is it an impoverished area? So
the Bronx is actually a great area.
Really?
Let's talk about that. So the Bronx, I actually ran into someone in Houston.
Yeah.
Him and his three brothers are from New York City. They bought a property in the Bronx years ago, when it was just in the gentrification stages, whatever. Mm-hmm. And they thought it was for quite a bit, like a lot of money, because the Bronx are all like Bronx, Brooklyn, in New York City, there are a lot of areas that, are very substantial in price rather than just the Upper East Side, but they are also in demand, and a lot of people live there because only a certain amount of people can live actually in Manhattan. So they actually ended up buying this, the four of them, just like when it was up and coming, for like $400,000 or something, not cheap. But they bought it. It's now worth $4.5 million.
Wow. What'd they do to it?
They just held it.
That's amazing.
They just held it. Like, 'cause now that's how in demand a lot of areas in the Bronx are. It just has to be in that right area. Like, it really comes down to commonsensical approach. If you're living in an area that's selling properties for $5,000, well, who the heck? And people's math doesn't add up, because they say, well, now we're going to rent it out for like $1,700 a month. If someone can't afford to buy a $5,000 home, how are they going to afford to pay $1,700 a month?
Yeah, they don't have a tenant profile in mind. If they do, they're in and out of jail.
Common sense goes a really, really long way in real estate investing. It's like, there's so much analysis that you could put into it, but common sense will trump
I think I think you got a good point about the common sense. Another thing is, I find with real estate investing, it's like a religion now. The hope that people get from it is amazing, and they just suck up. They buy into this hope that it's going to change their life forever by doing they want to invest with HELOCs. They don't want to put any money in and get all the returns. Like, it feels very much like a following, where they're drinking the Kool-Aid and they're believing everything that's being said, but not doing any of the work and the tough parts about it. I like to touch upon, if you will, Monika, touch upon the challenging parts of it and things that you learned along the way, because you've been at this for what, 20 years or so or more?
Yeah, over 14 years.
14 years. And so some things that were very difficult, but you got out of it and you're stronger and you learned a lesson along the way as well. Because, you know, we learn from our lessons, we learn from our mistakes, and we're better off for that. And I'm sure your investors, one of the reasons they invest with you is because you've gone through those 14 years. You've gone through the grime of it and the good of it. So nice stories, juicy stories you can share with that.
Well, let's talk about now, what we're currently going through now, because I think even investors like you and I are both going through a hard time right now. This could be one of the worst times. Like when we wrote Real Estate Mistakes, this was really more about doing too much too soon, lack of focus, not having a specific strategy, working like doing over 100 deals your first year just in low growth areas, going crazy. So let's fast forward to now, struggles that were experienced as full-time investors on really solid real estate projects. And let's also look who else is struggling in this economy. Like a lot of the home developers and builders are going bankrupt, like you said, are broke. Or they just stopped.
They just stopped building or just retired early.
And they should stop, because sometimes the best thing to do in real estate investing is to stop.
Yeah. There was no money.
And not to walk away, but to stop. And in private market equity, a lot of funds have stopped. If you are investing in private market equity, you have to be okay with that, because if the fund manager is saying, if we continue to move forward, we're really going to make a bad situation a disaster. This is how investments work. Like we got to put our big girls and boys pants on and realize this is not get rich quick. So what have we been going through? The 18 homes we built in Florida, which were supposed to be a pre-construction flip.
How long did you find that place? Like you took a long time just to look for it, develop it.
It was our team. So we took a long time to build the team. We had a great area. We were looking at different strategies. And then with our team and the use of our team, we found this and we said, let's go forward. Let's do it.
Like it wasn't a month or two. You said, yeah, this is it, and jumped in.
No.
Like this is a long
spend every day, Vaughn and I, our primary job as investors is to research and build out models of what works in today's economy. We now have this new capital gains tax and blah, blah, blah. What if that goes through? If that's going to be implemented, it's not our job to stop investing. You know, when interest rates go up, it's not our job to stop investing. When taxes are up, it's not our job to stop. You know, when construction costs go high, it's not our job to stop. It's our job to figure out what is working. And we've been pivoting and changing through markets through like 14 years. But you were talking about what's going wrong. You don't want to hear my disaster mistakes. They're not mistakes anymore. They're experiences.
Of course. One thing that comes to mind is change provides opportunity. And I think that's what you've been saying here. So please share with me.
And maturity. Maturity to sit still and to trust the key investor and whatever. Because we were supposed to do the pre-construction flip. And when we were building the homes, everything was running along tickety-boo. They had a hurricane in Fort Myers, which was far away from our properties because we're off the hurricane map. But what happened was the power company called Seco there no longer approved above line power poles. They wanted to go under the ground. And this held our project. We had to stop. It had none of our control. We didn't see this coming because all our approvals were in.
And bring other massive electricians coming in, or they just ruled
it wasn't allowed. If the builder, if the coding and the county won't approve it, then you cannot. There's one power company, and if
this happened in Ontario as well.
And it paused us for 8 months.
Wow.
So during that 8 months, because we were really fast, we were supposed to be done this project in 6 months. When we were sitting there over the 8 months waiting, we went through 8 interest rate adjustment hikes and a global economic crash. So all of a sudden, all these buyers who are like coming to this area or moving to this area, you know, now fortunately, what really happened, which was super exciting, was our original purchase price, because these homes was $240,000. But because of the spike in the growth in the area, then we were up to 270 we were looking at. But our investors still remember the 240. So because we still picked such a great area and whatever, it just took longer to sell the homes. That was the main obstacle. But we still ended up selling at 255. So it still was above the initial projection, but the investors had to wait. No one lost money.
Cool.
Which is so exciting.
That is.
You know, it was great, but it was very stressful because the project went like an additional,
I think
year.
The bottom line is as I tell investors and clients that I work with, it's always going to go over budget, and it's always going to take more time than expected with construction, because it always does. It never rarely does a plan fully along the way. There's always something that unexpected that arises. So,
and we were also very transparent too. Like, hey, this is a guinea pig investment. We're just trying this out. We haven't done this before in this area. We're working with this team. Like, investor beware. Like, when you go invest in private market equity, you sign your KYC. The first thing it says is you may lose all your money. Like, this is a dangerous investment.
Yep.
And you have to realize that. Now, fortunately, no one lost their money. That's great. They got all their money back and some, which is good. Not the profits we originally anticipated, but we also switched to some of them into a hold pattern, into more of a rental. So now it gives investors and us a chance to recoup our investment. So that was a really big project, and it's still even ongoing. Like with these homes, most of them are sold and gone, and some of them are being rented, which we're really proud. At the end of the day, you should be proud to have this in your portfolio, because this could be totally part of your wealth plan, which is exciting. And the other property, though, also is still sitting too and operating as that midterm rental that we were supposed to flip. And every day I talk to the realtor, we search the market, we watch the interest rate go down. Now I heard on the news today, they're saying that an interest rate adjustment may not be down in September because the inflation's gone up a little bit.
Oh, okay. All right.
So the mood might go down. So it all depends on the market. But we're ready, because now we have that number. Like I said, as the development's going up in the back, our number is kind of going up. So your job is to monitor it.
I like how you go with the flow of it. It's like you're in a river in a boat. You work with it. And I also like that you have a wide perspective. Not only you don't have, like, it's not only Ontario. You have North America. You're talking like Alberta, Ontario, Florida, and you spoke about Houston as well. So I like the fact. So here's my last question. Where do you see this housing crisis coming in the next 10 years? Like, how do you see it progressing? Like, there's a lot of changes going on with the 4 units per lot, immigration coming in, which is amazing numbers. Where do you see North American lifestyle in the next 5-10 years?
Well, I think that a lot of people are waiting for this big correction in the market, and it's not going to happen in our market. It's only going to happen in overinflated markets. So in these high growth areas I keep talking about, like, the price has never gone down. Like, it's not like all of a sudden to live in downtown Toronto, it's going to be $400,000. Like, I'm sorry, but like, it's just not realistic. I mean, it's going to continue to go up, and it has continued to go up even throughout the duration of, because people need places to live. That's why I love
there's value in downtown Toronto. I mean, my parents bought their first house in 1971 for like $26,000, which was very high back then. And now, I mean, it's right by the subway. There's value there. It's a small house, and I think it's worth over $1 million now.
It is way over $1 million. Like, that's just the way real estate goes. It always goes up. Like, can you see Kingston correcting itself? And in Kingston's a pretty expensive market.
I tell
all
people
of a sudden, it's not going to be like $100,000 for a house.
Settlers came here first a long time ago. There's a reason why we all settled in Kingston, because of the location. There's like the beginning of Lake Ontario, the end of St. Lawrence, or the beginning of St. Lawrence River, and then the river going up kind of. So it's a hub of an area. Always will be. And with Toronto and Ottawa and Montreal growing, it will grow as well. So
it will. And like, let's also think about this kind of like realistically, if we take that sort of commonsensical approach. So let's pretend the properties in Kingston are all of a sudden down to like $100,000 or, or $250,000 with the mortgage regulations and the way that they're doing stress testing. Most people still probably couldn't even afford it. So I don't know what our government is doing. I actually personally think they're trying to own all the housing and creating a generation of renters.
It's true. It seems as if this year, especially this year, it seems as if you're better off being very, very poor in Canada. Like it caters to the poor, and you want your poor. Anyone who's got any wealth or added value to the economy, they don't want. They're pushing it away. It seems. But that's
it feels like we're all very poor in Canada now. But at the same time, on paper, we're all classified as rich. So then they can tax us more. So it's ridiculous. Like it's really this kind of catch-22 that they've created, which is why it's important for people to have financial literacy, which we've been actually, that's another exciting thing. We've been getting financial literacy programs set up in the schools and providing programs to help people become more financially literate.
This should be if you don't get it. This should be our next conversation, because it flows talking with you. It just goes so easily, go back and forth. So let's talk about that next time in another episode.
Absolutely.
Where can people find you, Monika?
Oh, well, our website's www.rpieducation.com, and shoot an email to info@rpinvestments.ca, or you could book a discovery call, and all those links are on our website.
And the discovery call, they'll call you directly. Is it you?
It could be.
Okay.
Whoever answers.
All right.
So normally what we do we do have a team at RPI, and so we definitely are a friendly bunch for sure. And we also do have bi-weekly group coaching. You should be coming on there, Renee, and telling about what's happening in Kingston real estate.
Anytime. I love presentations.
Yeah, and that is a good conversation. So the best thing to really do is to sign up for our newsletter. It's on our website. You'll find out all the happenings at RPI, whether it's webinars, whether it's book a discovery call, whether it's shooting us an email and just saying, hey, what's up? I'd love to help people for sure. That's awesome. Really are on a mission to help fill the wealth gap and really to show people how real estate investing really works, and how the really secret missing component is community, and having this team of experts to not only just show you how to invest in real estate, but to hold your hand, really while you're doing it.
Community, very important.
Yeah.
Very important. Thank you very much, Monika, for spending the time talking with us. And always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And I will sign up on that newsletter, and I look forward anytime to be on your show as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Renee, for having me.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.